Hey everyone, this is Ruan. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create at scale website pages on your content management system using my favorite AI workflow. And this is going to be perfect for anyone that's doing SEO, digital marketing, anyone that's trying to generate leads, small business owners that are looking to create more pages at scale, all while leveraging ChatGPT. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to be bringing you click by click exactly how I do this. So by the end of this video, you should be an expert at creating this automation at scale for your business or for your clients. So let's get started by utilizing the OpenAI API. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're gonna start by creating an assistant. If you haven't watched my last video, I highly recommend you do, which is really explaining how assistants work. But basically, I'm gonna need to create an assistant here for me to utilize a lot of the API functions to actually do this. So to get started, I'm gonna go to our client's website, which is right here, and I'm gonna gather information about their existing basement finishing page so that I don't have to spend a lot of time prompting every time I wanna create a new page in this strategy. So I'm gonna head over to ChatGPT and I'm gonna use Splashdsh to gather page insights about this actual basement finishing page. And that's going to allow me to gather all of the content so that I can prompt it relatively quickly without having to do it myself. Splashdsh is going to go ahead and give me all of the contents on that web page directly inside of chat format, and then I'm going to go ahead in the API assistant and put that in there. So now that I have this information, I'm going to go ahead and grab it, copy it, and I'm going to paste it directly inside of my system instructions for my API assistant. Now, as I mentioned in our last video, we like to prompt AIs with 3 different categories: context, role, and task. Context is going to be why we're doing this. Role is going to be who you are in doing this. And task is going to be what you want the AI to do. So I'm going to go ahead and generate a context, role, and task so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so there we have it. So for context, I added that Bartlett is a home improvement contractor. The role is that they are a marketing professional. And the task is going to be to write content for this brand. I added some information about the brand just so the AI can have a better understanding. And then I copy and pasted all of that content that was found on that web page that's already ranking at the top of the search results for a lot of the basement related keywords. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and save this. So now I have my system instructions. I'm gonna go ahead and name this. And now I have a unique API for just the basement finishing segment, so that I can have specialization when I create AI content for this section. So I have my ChatGPT 4.0. I'm gonna go ahead and choose 4.0 mini. It's the cheapest and the fastest. And then I'm gonna go ahead and keep all of this information relevant. So with that assistant, I'm gonna be able to utilize third-party applications to call on this assistant directly. It's gonna save me a ton of time in prompt engineering. It's gonna save me a ton of time in building relevancy, and my AI is gonna be ready to pump out hundreds of web pages on this website. So now let's move to the content management system so I can show you how this process is gonna work in creating this content at scale. Remember, I use the Duda platform, but this can work for any content management system that you're using. So I wanted to paint a picture for you of what this would look like. When you look at a website page, you typically have your elements. You have your slug, you have a title tag, you have a meta description, you have a heading 1 tag, you have text, you have another headline, etc. So this is an example of this actually working and all of the content being written in the rows that we're going to need to generate a useful website page. So when I look at this page, I can see that there's a couple of things working here in our favor. The slugs are written, the title tags are written, the meta descriptions are written, H tags, the summaries, the headline 1, the subheadlines, all of that's written. And at the end, we get a useful URL that looks like this, that's actually live on the Google search engines and is live directly on the client's website. For us to do that, we need to work with a page template. And so this is what I'm showing you here today. This is a page template that we're gonna be working with. So the first thing that you can see is we have a page title. This is where the title is going to be written. We have an open summary, we have a call to action, and a click to call. As we scroll, we can start to see that there is a headline 1, a subheadline, a paragraph 1, a headline 2, a paragraph 2, a call to action, a headline 3, and a paragraph 3. So a lot of the dynamic content that OpenAI is going to write is going to directly be inputted into these areas. And we define these different areas with our Google Sheet, as you can see. So the Google Sheet has to match perfectly perfectly with the contents that you're going to use as dynamic. Now, Duda's technology allows you to do this with something called dynamic web pages, which is what we're going to be showing you here today. But other content managements might do something similar. So now that I have a page design, on the real site, you can see there is the title, the description, headline 1, headline 2, headline 3, headline 4, and then the rest of the page design is templated for conversion. So let's do this together and I can show you how this works. To start, I'm going to go ahead and click on Pages. I'm going to go over to the page template that I've created. In this case, it's Basement Finishing Dynamic. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on this button that says Convert to a Dynamic Page. So to convert it to a dynamic page, I'm going to have to connect a collection. A collection is that Google Sheet that I showed you that stores data in order for me to call upon that data to the dynamic page. So think when I add a row, it's going to add something to that collection that's going to trigger a page to be created. So let's go ahead and click on Create a Collection. In the collections, you have a couple of options. One is you can do it directly inside of the Duda editor. 2 is you can have an image collection. 3, you can use Google Sheets. You can use Airtable. You can use external. For this case scenario, I'm going to go ahead and click on New Google Sheets Collection. When I do so, I'll simply sign in with Google. And then as you can see, I can pick on the BC Basement Finishing Google Sheets that I've created for this purpose. And now once I have this actual collection added, inside of the fields, I'm going to want to add all of the different fields that are connected here, which are the slug, the page title, the description, the title tag, etc. So let me go ahead and go do that. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Field, Add Field, Add Field, and I'm just going to go through that list and make sure it's all connected to the right place. Okay, so let's review what I've done. The first thing is I want to make sure that the page item URL is connected to the slug. That is going to allow me to create SEO-friendly slugs that'll rank on Google. Then I connected the text, the title tag, the description, the page title, the opening summary, the headline 1, the subheadline, the paragraph 1, etc. Ideally, you're titling these to match exactly as you see here in the Google Sheets that you're connecting. And keep in mind, this is not a perfect rule. This can always be customized as you see fit. So now what I'm going to do, now that that's all set, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the dynamic page. And then I'm going to go ahead and now click on Convert to Dynamic Page. I'm going to pick my collection. It's going to be the Basement Finishing Collection. I'm going to click Done. And now I'm going to connect my widgets. So the first thing is I'm going to connect my page title. Then I'm going to connect my opening summary. That's all connected. And in Duda, you can see the quick little infinite sign means it's connected to an external database. Scrolling down, I'll collect my H1. Then I'll connect the subheadline. And now I'm going to go through the page and connect everything else. So as you can see, I have page title, open summary, headline 1, subheadline, paragraph 1, headline 2, paragraph 2, headline 3, paragraph 3. In my Google Sheet, you can see that I'm meeting the requirements for all of the different areas, including the page title, the meta description, etc. I'm going to clear this out so we can use a fresh example when we're ready to go. But that's how I'm going to connect this information to a Google Sheet so that every time I add a website page inside of that collection, which is just the Google Sheet, it's going to create a new web page. So as you can see, connecting the sheets is actually pretty easy to do inside of the Duda platform. What we're going to do now is we're going to have an example or a test to make sure that the data is pulling in correctly so that when we start doing our AI automations to do this for us, the information looks accurate and is plugged in carefully. So let's get started with creating a test example, and then I'll show you how we scale this with AI. So before I go to a test example, I'm going to click on Pages. I'm going to go to the Basement Finishing, and then I'm going to click on Edit Page SEO. Now, with Page SEO, just like we did with the connected data, I can connect a title tag and a meta description. This is going to mean that every time we add a unique title tag and meta description in our Google Sheet, it's also going to reflect the page itself. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Connect, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on Title Tag. And you will see that I can connect the title tag in that Google Sheet. I'm going to do the same thing with a meta description. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to go to meta description, and that's going to allow me to connect a meta description. And then the pages, all of the pages within this category are currently set to no index. That's not necessarily what I want in this case scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and click on off of that. And that's going to make sure that every single row that's added to our Google Sheet is indexing that page for Google search engines to crawl it, and so we can gain valuable organic traffic data. So now that that's all connected, I'm gonna go ahead and X out of that. In my Google Sheet now, I should be able to add a different row here, and that should add to our web page. So let me get started by showing you an example of what this would look like, and then I'll come back to the computer screen to test that. And really all I'm gonna do is I'm just going to add content in here so you can see what that potentially looks like. So back in ChatGPT, in that conversation that I had before, I just asked GPT in a spreadsheet format to put this information into these rows and provide it to me as an Excel file. So now in my Google Sheet, I can simply just go ahead and add the different areas I need to get that completely written out, as you can see there. So looking at the slug, it looks good. Looking at the page title, it looks good. Looking at the meta description, it looks good, etc., etc., etc. So you can see how this information is going to be chosen all inside of here. So now we can look at the final product, and this is what it looks like. Once that information is filled in, you should have a page that looks like this. You'll notice a couple of things. The first thing you'll notice is the slug will be the exact slug that you have in the Google Sheet, as you can see. And then you'll have your headline, your subtext, your button, your headline, your text, your headline, your text, your headline, your text. And all of this will coincide with exactly what you connected inside of your collection. So all of this information should be matched up pretty nicely depending on how you have this set up. The page item URL will always be the slug. So as we start creating more pages and throwing in different slugs inside of here, we'll start actually writing all of this content automatically. So now that you see this, I'm gonna go ahead and click done. I'm gonna publish this website so you can see what it looks like on the live search engine. And then from there, we'll start working in the actual ChatGPT automation to get it to create pages for us at scale. Let's go ahead and pull up the website. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the sitemap, and then you can see the first website site link that's here is the actual basement finishing one that we just created. So if I visit this page, you'll see that this is the live text here. You have the headline, you have the text, you have all the custom content with the page design that we have associated with this. So now I'm gonna actually bring you through the Zapier automation utilizing the OpenAI assistant so that you can create these website pages at scale. So buckle up, this is gonna get technical. With Zapier, I'm gonna be able to create a Zap that looks like this. The trigger is gonna be when a new spreadsheet row is added, a page slug is written, a title tag is written, a meta description is written, the open summary is written, a headline 1, a subheadline, a paragraph 1, headline 2, paragraph 2, headline 3, paragraph 3, etc. And then that's gonna pull all of that data directly into a spreadsheet row so that I can automatically add that content inside of there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and build this from scratch for Bartlett Contracting with this Google Sheet for basement finishing, so we can rank for all of the keywords on Google search results with basement finishing for all of the areas that he services. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new Zap, and then I'm going to title this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is a trigger. My trigger is going to be Google Sheets. So anytime a new spreadsheet row is created, and remember, there's two sections here. There's the keyword, which we're gonna put in. That's gonna trigger the Zapier automation for the new spreadsheet row to be created. That's what the trigger is gonna be. I'm gonna go ahead and pick my spreadsheet. It's the BC basement finishing, the one that I just titled. And the worksheet I'm gonna pick is the keyword. At the end, I'm gonna pick basement finishing because that's where I want the data to push. But in the beginning, I want the input to be keyword. So let's go ahead and click on that. I'm gonna test my trigger. And when my test comes back in, it'll see that there's a keyword phrase that I put in, basement renovations, Naugatuck CT. So that is the keyword phrase that's gonna trigger this automation. Anytime a keyword is added to one of these rows, it's gonna trigger this entire automation. So again, this is just the beginning of this. Now that we have our trigger set, I'm now gonna work within the ChatGPT function. With ChatGPT, my action is going to be conversation with assistant. Remember in the beginning, we created an assistant that's hyper-focused on basement refinishing for this client. So when I click that, I'm gonna continue, and then I'm gonna choose the assistant that I mentioned in the beginning, as you can see here, Bartlett Contracting Basement Finishing. This is gonna make it so I don't spend any time on prompting, and it's just gonna give me accurate information from the get-go. Now, this conversation is going to be to create the page slug. I want ChatGPT to create clean slugs based on the input. I can put in this prompt that basically says, based on the keyword I entered in the first step, write a page slug that is SEO friendly. Basically, I just want the slug to include the keyword in between those characters. I want a clean slug that looks like this as the end finished product. I don't necessarily want something that's too long or too descriptive. I want ChatGPT to work very little here, but I do need a clean page slug. Going down, I'll choose my model. In this case, I'll just pick 4.0 mini, and then I can go ahead and test this step. If done correctly, Zapier and ChatGPT, based on the keyword you put in, will provide me with a really clean page slug that I can use at scale. So there's the response, basement renovations Naugatuck CT. So as I do my input, now it's gonna automatically put in that slug into the row that I'm creating. So my next step is going to be creating the page title tag. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another ChatGPT function. Just this time, I'm gonna name it page title tag. And where this is gonna go is it's gonna go directly inside of page title, and that's going to be the title tag that's reflected when somebody makes a search for this page, ultimately allowing it to rank on Google. So as I go in here, I'm gonna follow the same conversation step. I'm gonna go ahead and do conversation with assistant. I'm going to continue. I will pick my assistant, same assistant that I'm using before. This will be virtually the same for this entire conversation. You can ultimately customize this as you see fit, but for me, I just wanna create basement finishing pages at scale, so that's what I'm gonna do. And the message is gonna be similar. It's gonna look something like this. The message will say, based on the keyword I put in at the first step, write a title tag that's short, clear, and describes the page's content in 55 characters or less. The reason I picked 55 is because most search engines won't show anything more than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and test this step, and then I'm gonna test to see how valid the title tag it is that ChatGPT wrote, basically just by knowing the keyword in the Google Sheet. So here's the title tag, looks pretty straightforward, included the main keyword, included the main town, and then included the client's name. Now that my title tag is down, I'm gonna move on to my meta description. In my meta description, I'm gonna title this so I stay organized. I'm gonna pick conversation with assistant. I'm gonna choose my same assistant, and my message is gonna be very similar to what I did with the title tag, just this time I'm gonna make it under 160 characters, as that's what's recommended when created a meta description. So based on the keyword, write a meta description, enter a summary of what the content is about. I'm gonna go ahead and pick my model, and then I'm going to test this, and let's take a look and see what it came up with for a meta description. So here's the meta description that I got. It basically says, transform your underutilized space with expert basement renovations in Naugatuck. Contact Bartlett Contracting for functional and stylish solutions. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So let's move to the actual on-page contents of this. The first thing I'm gonna write is the page title that's actually on the page itself. So I'll call this page title, and that's an H1. Same process, using a conversation with the assistant, and my message is gonna look something like this. Based on this term, write one SEO headline focused on the keyword, and I'm gonna put basement finishing. And then I recommended it to avoid any unusual styling quirks. I don't want it to look like AI wrote it. Now you can see the full response, which is really gonna be similar to the page's title tag. They're both necessarily saying the same exact things, just uniquely. One is gonna be on the page, one is gonna be on the title tag for when a user searches. That's what they're gonna see. Moving on, remember we had an opening summary, which we connected. As you saw here, I'm moving on to the opening summary, and notice how I'm moving left to right of all of the contents that are required to fulfill the needs of this web page. So I'm gonna title this opening summary, and then I'm gonna follow the same steps. All right. At this point, you should be getting the hang of it. I'm getting really high quality full responses that are going into different rows and cells on a Google spreadsheet that's connected to a given page design. At this time, I'm gonna go ahead and complete this, and then I'll come back to the computer when it's all done. Now, as we get to the paragraphs, I wanted to show you something really quick to make sure that your content has continuity. On the right side, you can see I put in full response number 7, and I put in that based on this headline, write paragraph text up to 100 words about what a basement remodel can do. Just keep in mind that as you're doing your prompting here with automations, to call on previous responses that you've gotten to make sure the content has continuity, or else it'll sound random and it'll sound scrambled. So as I write my second paragraph and my third paragraph, I'm gonna make sure that I'm always putting in this information. Okay guys, so coming back to the computer, you can see we have all of our different automation steps. When somebody adds a row, all of this information is going to be created and it's going to be neatly organized. Our last step is to reconnect Google Sheets, except this time we're going to be doing create spreadsheet row. And when we create a spreadsheet row, that's going to trigger Duda to create a dynamic page. So the drive I'm going to use is our normal one. I'm going to go ahead and connect that basement finishing spreadsheet that we looked, and then our worksheet is going to go into basement finishing. So different than the keyword one that we put in before, because that was the input. Now our slug, we're going to gather all of the contents from OpenAI's responses. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that out and just make sure that you're matching everything with the response. As you can see, for page title, I'm going to match it with the full response, so that every time a row is added, those contents are put into the correct rows. Now, as we get to the end, there's going to be our prefix URL. That is just going to be the slug that you want to use for this URL path. I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in there. And then there is a final URL. For this stage, what you're going to want to do is put in the prefix URL, and then you're also going to want to add that page slug like we did in the beginning. So your URL structure will always be the domain, the category, and then the keyword that you're targeting with this sheet. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and test this step. So when I test this, hypothetically, what should happen if I've done this or you've done this completely correct is it's going to put all of this information as a spreadsheet row directly into that Google Sheet. So as I open up this sheet, you can see that it's successful. It's created a slug with the correct information. It's added the page title. It's added the meta description. It's added the H1 tag. It's added the opening summary. It's added the headline 1, etc., etc., etc. And then it's added a recommended URL path. This won't be live until it's live on the Duda website. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a minute, show you that this page actually was published on the Duda website automatically without me having to do anything. And then I'm going to wrap this up to show you how you can automate this at scale for your clients and some additional automations that will really make your life a lot easier. Okay guys, look, I know that was a lot, but imagine trying to do this page by page by page by page on a content management system. It would take you forever. So I used to spend a ton of time doing this myself, creating the page, adding the slug, creating the title tag, creating the meta description, writing the content. And as I show you in a future video where we send traffic to all of these pages to generate leads, it's gonna rank them. So let's go back into the computer so I can show you what the final result looks like. So as you can see on the Google Sheet, it's gone ahead and created all of the pages that I've asked for it to do with that Zap automation we just covered. All the keywords are added inside of here. And you can see that Zapier and ChatGPT worked together to get all of this information dynamically created, and the content looks pretty good. Now, with all AI, you should review this content, copy edit it before you actually publish it, but you can see that the slugs at the end actually fared out pretty well. They all matched exactly what I wanted, and they're all targeting those different locations. Going into the actual editor of the site, I can navigate all of the dynamic pages, as you can see, directly inside of the Duda web editor, and I can click one to quickly glance and see how it looks. So you can see basement finishing Westport, headlines are exactly what I wanted, the text looks good, and all of this is ready to be published on an actual website page, along with the mobile version, which is also connected. So no matter which page I go to, it's all customized based on what I was looking to do. So if I go ahead and publish this new website, and I go to the actual sitemap.xml file so I can see what pages were created, I can quickly see that all of the basement finishing URLs, as you can see, are all added publicly directly on this website, which is amazing. So if I click on this North Haven page, I can go ahead and see that page directly on the internet. So Google is going to take some time to index this, and I can spend some time changing the photos, I can spend some time copy editing the content, have our team copy edit it, etc. But ultimately, this is how you can leverage AI, Zapier, ChatGPT, a content management system to do this automation at scale. So again, with all AI content, you should copy edit it, but if you follow this process down to the T, you should be able to automate a lot of the web pages that you're creating, especially if they are similar, like this example of service area pages. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.